Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. We are going to do a sixth group from now on. It's the 25th night, and the sixth group of Quranic surahs is comprised of 17 surahs, starting from the 50th surah till the 66th surah. The first 7 surahs of this group are Meccan, and the subsequent 10 surahs are Madinan. Like we found that in the fourth group of surahs, a predominant theme was affirmation of the prophethood. In the fifth group, the predominant theme was affirmation of Tawheed, unity of God. In the sixth group, we'll find that it's the affirmation of life hereafter, which is a predominant theme, as well as the usual warning to the disbelievers and good news to the believers. We'll find it here as well. In the Meccan surahs, Quraysh are the people who are addressed. Believers also given good news, and we find that the people of the book are in the background. We are going to do in this particular episode the first 2 surahs. Well, we'll do 7 surahs of the group, the Meccan surahs. So we'll begin with the first 2 surahs, which are Qaf and Azarya, respectively the 50th and the 51st surah. They are both forming a pair. They were revealed during the phase which was Inzar Am, the general warning given to the people. And we find that in the first surah, it's emphasizing on the arguments that have got to do with the phenomena of the nature and human nature. In the second surah, Zariyat, it's the historical evidence that has been provided. We start with the first 5 verses of Surah Qaf, Surah number 50. It says, Qaf, this is Surah Qaf wal Quran al-Majid. The noble, honored Quran is a testimony of the fact that this book is from God. Bal ajibu an ja'ahum. There is no reason for these people to deny the life hereafter. It's not that they have something to offer. Instead, bal ajibu, they are surprised, an ja'ahum munzirum minhum, that a warner has come from within them. That is, they were expecting some angel or somebody who was extraordinary in their own opinion. فَقَالَ الْكَافِرُونَ هَذَا شَيْءٌ عَجِيبٌ. So these disbelievers say that it's a very strange matter. أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا. Is it that when we are going to die and we are going to be dust? ذَلِكَ رَجْعٌ بَعِيدٌ. This is a very far-fetched possibility of us returning. قَدْ عَلِمْنَا مَا تَنْقُصُ الْأَرْضُ مِنْهُمْ. The Almighty responds by saying that we know what diminishes of them, of their physical existence, into the earth, what earth takes away from them. وَعِنْدَنَا كِتَابٌ حَفِيظٌ. And we have a book that keeps control of everything, keeps the record of everything that has happened. So accountability is going to be very much a possibility. Verses 9 to 11, verse 9 in the same surah says, وَنَزَّلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً مُبَارَكًا. And we send down from the sky water, pure, blessed. فَأَنْبَتْنَا بِهِ جَنَّاتٍ. And we make to grow thereby with water, jannatin, gardens, وَحَبَّ الْحَسِيدِ, and crops which are harvested. وَالنَّخْلَ بَاسِقَاتٍ لَهَا. And we also cause lofty palm trees to be grown, طَلْحٌ نَزِيدٌ, which have fruits arranged in layers. All this rizqan lil ibad is done as provision for the servants. وَأَحْيَيْنَا بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا. Moreover, we want to tell you that that's how we will give life again after you are dead, after people are dead. كَذَلِكَ الْخُرُوجِ. And thus there is going to be resurrection. We move on to verses 30 onwards. In the same surah, the Almighty is talking about the next life when it's going to begin. He will say to the hell, يَوْمَ نَقُولُ لِجَهَنَّمْ. Imagine the day when God is going to say to the hell, Halim Talati, have you been filled? Is there any further space? وَتَقُول, and the hell would say, Hal min mazid, is there any more? Are there any more people to be accommodated? وَإِذْ أُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. And the paradise will be brought near to the righteous in a way that it would not be very far. هَذَا مَا تُوعَدُونَ. And it would be said, this is what was promised to you. لِكُلِّ أَوَّابٍ حَفِيظٍ. This paradise was promised to everyone who would come back to God, return to God in repentance, Hafiz, and would take care of, would keep his covenants and the boundaries of the Almighty, take them seriously. Man khashiyar rahmana bil ghaib, people who feared God even without looking at him, without having him right in front of them. Waja'a bi qalbin munib, and they were the ones who came with a heart that was returning, always coming back to God for seeking forgiveness. Udkhuluha bisalam. It will be said that enter this paradise with peace. Zalika yawmul khulud. This is the place, this is the day which is going to last forever. In other words, the paradise is going to be a life which will never end. Lahum ma yasha'una fiha wa ladaina mazid. For them there is going to be everything that they are going to ask for, wish for. Waladaina mazid, and we will have much more to offer. We move on to the next surah, which is Surah 51, Azarya, which is the partner surah of Surah Qaf. In this surah, the first 5 verses, they are actually providing a testimony. The Almighty says, وَالزَّارِيَاتِ zarwa, by the winds scattering dust and dispersing. فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا, and the clouds carrying loads of water. Winds are a testimony and evidence, and these clouds are a testimony and evidence. فَالْجَارِيَاتِ yusra, and the clouds sailing with ease are also an evidence. فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ amra, and then deciding matters differently, that is, for different kinds of soils, different amount of rainfall, if any, is decided. All these are an evidence of the fact that innama tu'aduna lasadiq, that indeed what you are promised is true. Wa inna ad-deena lawaqi, and that the accountability process is bound to take place. That is, the winds that the Almighty has referred to and which He uses to make different things happen on different occasions with whatever plan He has in mind. The same winds were employed by the Almighties in the past to inflict His punishment on some nations. So it's the same winds which are a testimony of the fact, an evidence of the fact that when the Almighty is going to decide to inflict His punishment on you, He can do it, and whenever there is going to be His plan to cause the day of judgment to happen, it's going to happen. We move on to verse 15, where the Almighty is saying that innal muttaqina fi jannatin wa uyun. When that day is going to arrive, the God-conscious people are going to be in the gardens of paradise and in springs. Akhizina ma atahum rabbuhum. They'll be accepting whatever their Lord will be giving to them. Innahum kana كَانُوا قَبْلَ ذَلِكَ مُحْسِنِينَ. They were the ones who before this, in the worldly life, they were righteous and seeking excellence in righteousness. That's what has caused them to be, will cause them to be in the paradise. كَانُوا قَلِيلًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ مَا يَهْجَعُونَ. They used to sleep very little during the night because they would pray to the Almighty. وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. And during the night time, when they will get up for prayer, early in the morning, they will seek forgiveness from the Almighty. وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. And in their wealth, there is always a portion that they think is the right of people who ask for help and who are deprived. Then we move on to, in the same surah, later, verse 47 onwards, where the Almighty says, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا. And the sky and the way we have raised it, بِأَيْدٍ, with might, وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. And we have the capacity to expand, to create more and more. وَالْأَرْضَ فَرَشْنَاهَا. And the earth and the way we have laid it down, we have laid it down for people to be able to live properly. وَنِعْمَ الْمَاهِدُونَ. And how well are we the preparers, the layers of this land. وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ. And likewise, whatever we have created in pairs, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ, so that you may ponder and reflect. That is, you may ponder and reflect that like there is a partner for everything in this life. Whatever we have created in pairs. Similarly, this life also needs to have a pair, and that pair is the next life. So this life, this worldly life, is one partner of a pair, and the next life is going to enable this pair to come together. Otherwise, this life on its own, solitary life, without any life, would not make sense. It would be inconsistent with the scheme of the Almighty, who has created everything in pairs. How could it be possible that this life will not have a pair? We then move on to the next pair of surahs, which is surah number 52 and surah number 53, which is Surah Tur and Surah An-Najm. The same theme as in the previous two surahs is what we find here as well. In Surah Tur, we find that the warning of punishment has been given, and there is a criticism on the leaders of Quraysh. While in the case of Surah An-Najm, Surah 53, there is a refutation of the misleading dogmas of the people of Quraysh that caused them to ignore the life hereafter. So we start with the Surah Tur, its first few verses. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وَالطُّورِ. The Mount of Tur is an evidence. وَكِتَابٍ مَسْطُورٍ. And so is the book inscribed. فِي رَقٍّ مَنْشُورٍ. In the parchment spread open, that is the book of God, Torah. وَالْبَيْتِ الْمَعْمُورِ. And the populated house, this world. وَالسَّقْفِ الْمَرْفُوعِ. And also the heaven raised high. وَالْبَحْرِ الْمَسْجُورِ. Likewise, the sea filled with water. They are all an evidence of the fact that إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّكَ لَوَاقِعٌ. The punishment of your Lord is bound to take place. مَا لَهُ مِن دَافِعٍ. There is none who can prevent it from happening. That is, the way this world has been created by the Almighty, the way our needs are being met, the way the amazing arrangements have been made, they are all a testimony to the fact that this life alone is not enough. It is not possible that the creator of our life is going to allow things to continue to happen the same way as they are happening now. People are being unfair, things seem to be incomplete, people die all of a sudden. It doesn't make sense. So there has to be another life for this life to make sense, to be meaningful. And that life is bound to come, and all that you see in this life is an evidence of the next life. In verse 21, the Almighty is talking about the rewards that He's going to give to His good people who performed well in this life. And He says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and those people who believed, وَاتَّبَعَتْهُمْ ذُرِّيَّتُهُمْ, and their progeny also followed them, bi-iman, in their faith. أَلْحَقْنَا بِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ, we are going to cause their progeny also to join them in the paradise. وَمَا أَلَتْنَاهُمْ مِنْ عَمَلِهِمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, and we will not deprive them of anything of their deeds. The deeds of none of them is going to be taken away, while they will all be together. كُلُّ امْرِئٍ بِمَا كَسَبَ رَهِينٌ, every person for what he earned is going to be retained, is going to account for. From here we move on to verse 35, where the Almighty is talking to the disbelievers and asking them a few questions as to how is it that they reject the Almighty's message, they reject God and His meaningful creation. He asks, Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in, is it that they were created by nothing? Am humul khaliqun, or were they the creators themselves? Am khalaqu samawati wal ard, or did they create the heavens and the earth? Balla yuqinun, no, it's not that. Instead, they don't want to be certain. They are not interested in it. Am indahum khazainu rabbika, or is it that they have the deposits of treasures, of provisions of their Lord? Am humul musaytirun, or are they the controllers of all these treasures and resources? Am lahum sullamun yastami'una fi, or have they a stairway into the heaven, yastami'una fi, upon which they listen? فَلْيَأْتِ مُسْتَمِعُهُمْ بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ, then let their listener produce a clear authority. In other words, they've got nothing to present. They've got no reason to show the kind of attitude that they are displaying in rejecting the message of God. No reasons whatsoever. It's just their intransigence, rigidity, inflexibility that is causing them not to accept the truth from God. We move on to the next surah, which is Surah An-Najm. As I said, it's a partner of this surah, and in this surah, the Almighty is primarily addressing the dogma, the misleading religious understanding of the people of Quraysh, which led them not to take the life hereafter seriously. The Almighty mentions at the beginning of the surah, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wan najmi iza hawa, the star when it descends is a testimony. Ma dhalla sahibukum wa ma hawa, it's a testimony of the fact that your companion, O people of Quraysh, that is our Prophet, ma dhalla, he has not strayed, wa ma hawa, nor has he erred. That is, you are claiming that soothsayer, he's a soothsayer, that he is informed, inspired by devil jinns. The fact is that while the Quran is being revealed, we have arranged for these jinns, these devils, to stay away. And the evidence of it are the stars that follow them. They are pursued by blazing meteoroids, and this causes them to be thrown away, dispersed. This is an evidence of the fact that this book is not from devil, not from jinns. It's from God, from angels who have been entrusted with the task of revealing this message. And foolproof security system has been arranged to make sure that no jinn is able to intervene. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, and he does not speak from his own desire, inclination. In huwa illa wahyu yuha, whatever he is delivering is wahi, revelation that has been revealed to him. Thereafter, we move on to verse 26 of Surah An-Najm, where the Almighty says, وَكَمْ مِن مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ, and there are so many angels in the heavens, لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا, whose intercession will not help them, will not avail at all. إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ أَن يَأْذَنَ اللَّهُ, except after God has permitted, لِمَن يَشَاءُ, to whomever He would want, وَيَرْضَى, and He will approve it. That is, intercession is out of the question except for something that the Almighty is allowed in His system of justice, and therefore nobody who has performed poorly will be rescued, will be allowed to pass and stay away from stern accountability. Innal lazina la yu'minuna bil akhirah, indeed those people who do not believe in the life hereafter, like yusammuna al malaikata tasmiyatal untha, they name angels female names, they give female names to angels. Their understanding was that these angels are the daughters of the Almighty, God forbid, and they are so close to Him that we pray to them and they will in turn intercede for us and ask God to forgive us. The Almighty says that whoever is believing in this kind of concept of intercession, that somebody else is going to come to his or her rescue, he actually doesn't believe in the life hereafter, because the life hereafter is going to be an occasion when the Almighty is going to deal with people fairly and justly. So this system of justice will not be broken, cannot be in any way corrupted. So anybody who has an understanding different from it actually doesn't believe in the life hereafter. A few verses later, in verse 33, the Almighty is asking this question, that people of Quraysh thought that they're going to have a high status in the next life, and they thought that they don't need to spend in the way of God. The Almighty is asking, أَفَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي تَوَلَّى, have you seen the one who turned away from spending in the way of God, وَآتَى قَلِيلًا وَأَكْدَى, and gave little of his wealth and refrained from spending. عِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ الْغَيْبِ فَهُوَ يَرَى, does he have the knowledge of the unseen world? That is, the knowledge that would give him the confidence that he's fine, everything is going to be okay with him. فَهُوَ يَرَى, so that he can see the unseen world. أَمْ لَمْ يُنَبَّأْ بِمَا فِي صُحُفِ مُوسَى, or has he not been informed about what was there in the scriptures of Moses, وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ الَّذِي وَفَّى, and Abraham who fulfilled his obligations. All these prophets, they came with this message, Allah taziru waziratum wizra ukhra, that no bearer of burdens will bear the burden of another. Wa laysa lil insani illa ma sa, and that there is not going to be anything for a man except for what he will do himself, what he will strive for on his own. Now we move on to the next two surahs, which are surahs 54 and 55, Al-Qamr and Ar-Rahman. Both form a pair. Apart from these topics that are common to all these surahs in this group, what we find in these two surahs which make them a pair is the fact that their presentation seems to be similar in one important sense. They both have what we call in Arabic tarji'i verses, ayat, verses that are repeated over and over again. We know the famous verse that is repeated in Surah Rahman, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. But in Surah Al-Qamr, which is the 54th Surah preceding Surah Rahman, we have this verse repeated several times, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have made this Quran appropriate, simple, to be reminded through. Are there any people who are prepared to be reminded to take the message seriously? That's the common theme between them. They are both affirming the life hereafter. They're both commenting on the rigid, inflexible attitude of the disbelievers and drawing them towards the reality that the Almighty is presenting through repeating the same verses over and over again, as if there are people who are not prepared to listen, and there are desperate attempts being made to draw their attention. I start with the Surah Qamar first. It says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Iqtarabatis sa'atu wanshaqqal qamar. The hour has come near, that is the time of the next life. Wanshaqqal qamar, and the moon has also split into two. In other words, there were several landmarks that the Almighty had decided before the ultimate day of judgment to arrive. And one of those landmarks was that the moon would be split into two, and that's what has actually happened. And they're still not interested. وَإِن يَرَوْا آيَةً يُعْرِضُوا. And if they see a miracle, they ignore. وَيَقُولُوا سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. And they say it's just a magic, passing magic. It's going to come and go. There's nothing serious about it. وَكَذَّبُوا وَاتَّبَعُوا أَهْوَاءَهُمْ. And they've denied and they followed their desire. That is, they deny because they want to follow their desire in this life. They're so madly after, passionate about this worldly life, and their base desires, that they would not like to take the possibility of the next life seriously. وَكُلُّ أَمْرٍ مُسْتَقِرٍ. And every matter has a time for it to happen. That is, we're not going to bring the life hereafter or their punishment immediately. It's going to come at its appointed time. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِّنَ الْأَنْبَاءِ مَا فِيهِ مُزْدَجَرٌ. And there has already come to them information which was a deterrence. That is, there's so many stories of the earlier people, nations have come to them, and they're still not moved. حِكْمَةٌ بَالِغَةٌ فَمَا تُغْنِ النُّذُرُ. There were extensive wisdom, words of wisdom, stories of wisdom that were very effective, penetrating the hearts, but they come to no avail. We move on to the passage in Surah Qamar 41 to 45, wherein in verse 41, the Almighty, after having described a number of stories, comes to the story of Pharaoh. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَ فِرْعَوْنُ النُّذُرُ. And there certainly came to the people of Pharaoh a warning. كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا كُلِّهَا. And the people, the followers of Pharaoh, they denied all signs. فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ أَخْذَ عَزِيزٍ مُقْتَدِرٍ. So we seized them by a manner which was actually befitting for the one who is Azizim Muqtadir, exalted in might and has a perfect ability to do whatever he wants to. Akuffarukum khairum min ulaikum. Then he poses this question: are your disbelievers better than those former ones who have been described in the earlier stories? Am lakum baratun fi zubur. Or you have immunity in the scriptures that you are not going to be punished? Am yaquluna nahnu jami'un muntasir. Or do they say that we are an assembly of people who will be able to support ourselves, will be able to fight against whatever calamity would come to them? Sayuhzamul jamu. Be absolutely sure that your group is going to be defeated. Sayuhzamul jamu. The assembly, the group will be defeated. وَيُوَلُّونَ الدُّبُرَ. And they will turn their backs and run away. Surah Rahman is surah number 55. In this surah, the Almighty has repeated that famous verse to draw the attention of the people to the fact that the Almighty has created this amazing life. The first few verses of Surah Rahman say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ar-Rahman, the merciful God. Allama al-Quran is the one who taught the Quran. Khalaq al-insan, he created man, Allamahul bayan, and he taught him speech, to speak, to think, to ponder, and to express. That's why he gave Quran, because people have this intellect which has the ability to understand. Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru bi-husban, the sun and the moon move by precise calculation. Wan-najmu wash-shajaru yasjudan, and the stars and trees, they prostrate. They follow the injunctions in the Almighty, and they are therefore prostrating to Him. Was-samaa rafa'aha, and the heaven, He raised them. Wa wada al-mizan, and He imposed a balance in them. Allah tatghaw fil mizan, so that, O human beings, you also not transgress the balance. This entire existence is functioning in a balanced way and is giving you this lesson to follow, that you too should remain balanced in your lives. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ, and you establish weight in justice. وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ, and do not make the balance deficient. Don't make it imbalanced. Now we move on to one other verse in the surah, which is verse 60. And the Almighty, after describing the punishment that is going to be given to the evildoers, He mentions the paradise that is going to be given as a reward to the good people. And He mentions it, Hal jazaul ihsani illa al ihsan. Is the reward for good anything but good? That is, when people are doing good in this life, which is a life of trial, where people had the opportunity of doing evil as well, how is it possible that they will not be rewarded for their goodness? So it's an appeal to human nature, that these blessings of the paradise that we are describing as a promise to the people who are doing good, why would it not happen? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. So, which of the amazing signs of your Lord are you going to deny? You too, O men as well as O jinns. So, this verse, which is repeated over and over again in this surah, is actually addressing both men and jinn, because both categories, both species are actually going through a trial in their respective lives. And it seems that the Quranic message was also understood by the jinns, and therefore they also have been addressed. Then we move on to the last surah that we'll do tonight, which is surah number 56, Surah Al-Wakiyah. This surah is a unique solitary surah. It doesn't have a partner, and it is therefore unique, standing on its own. It summarizes all the subjects that were mentioned in the previous 6 surahs, and the Almighty is addressing particularly the leaders of Quraysh and telling them that their arrogance is going to destroy them. And it also mentions the fact that there is a place of success for people and respect for people who do good. And within the people who do good and are virtuous, there are a number of different levels. People excel, and therefore in the next life they will have a befitting reward. And those who are good but don't excel, they too will have a reward. They too will have their own respective Jannat, paradises, but each according to his her performance. So let's take the first few verses of Surah Al-Wakiyah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Iza waqa'atil waqiyah. When the inevitable will happen, Al-Waqiyah. Laysa li waq'atiha kaziba. There can be no denying of its occurrence. It's bound to happen. Khafidatur rafi'ah. It will be an occasion when many are going to be brought down from their lofty status. And rafi'ah, many others would be raised up, even though in the worldly life they were ordinary people. Khafidatur rafi'ah. It will bring down some and raise up others. Iza rujjatil ardu rajja. And the earth is going to be shaken with convulsion. Fabussatil jibalu bassa. And the mountains will be broken down, crumbling. Fakanat habam mumbatha. And these mountains are going to become dust and they'll disperse. Vakuntum azbajan thalatha. And O humans, you are going to be divided into three groups. Fashabul maymana. So as far as those people on the right hand side are concerned, ma ashabul maymana. What a good reward they will get, those on the right hand side. Ma ashabul mashama. And as for those who will fall on the left side, ma ashabul mashama. What a bad, evil return they are going to get, people on the left side. وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ. And those who excelled and were forerunners, they are going to be forerunners in the next life as well. They will lead. They will be the ones who will be declared the champions. أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. Those are the ones who will be brought near to God Almighty. So this description is what the Almighty mentions about the life hereafter, and goes on to mention how good the paradise is going to be and what kind of generous rewards the Almighty is going to arrange for the people of paradise. And then he goes on to mention the disbelievers and addresses them after describing their punishment in the next life. As if he's saying that, why would you not be punished? Nahnu khalaqnakum. We were the ones who created you. فَلَوْلَا تُصَدِّقُونَ. Why did you not then confirm and believe? أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تُمْنُونَ. O disbelievers, have you ever thought of what you spill, that is, in the wombs of your wives? أَأَنْتُمْ تَخْلُقُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Is it you who create a child out of it? Don't you see that the way children are born, it's amazing, it's miraculous. Did you do it? نَحْنُ قَدَّرْنَا بَيْنَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. We have decreed death amongst you. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِمَسْبُوقِينَ. And we are not going to be defeated. We are not going to be outdone by you, so that you will run away and we will not be able to catch you up. We will not be able to be outdone. أَلَا أَن نُبَدِّلَ أَمْثَالَكُمْ. In that we will change your likeness with another. وَنُنْشِئَكُمْ فِي مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And we'll produce you in another form which you do not know. In other words, you will go from here and then you will take another life, and you simply cannot stop us from doing it. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمْتُمُ النَّشْأَةَ الْأُولَى. And you already know your first creation. فَلَوْلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. So why don't you then be reminded, and why don't you correct yourself? And then we move on to verse 75, where the Almighty is saying, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِمَوَاقِعِ النُّجُومِ. So no, whatever they believe in has no basis. أُقْسِمُ, I present as evidence, بِمَوَاقِعِ النُّجُومِ, the setting of the stars, the way they descend. وَإِنَّهُ لَقَسَمٌ لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عَظِيمٌ. And if you could know, it's indeed a very prominent, great testimony innahu la Quranun Kareem. It's not a book brought by the jinns. It's a noble Quran. Fi kitabim maknoon, in a register well protected. La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun. Nobody can touch it except those who are purified angels. That is, angels have brought this book to our messenger, and he is delivering this message to you. It's not from Satan's jinns, as you are alleging. The stars fall upon them. The Almighty has made arrangements to thwart them away from the place where this revelation is coming down. May the Almighty enable us to understand His message as best as is possible the way it is, and may He enable us to follow it in all our sincerity.